Have you ever wondered why some individuals seem to be set apart, destined for a higher purpose, while others walk a more ordinary path? What if there was a deeper divine reason behind this distinction? The concept of being called versus chosen by God invites us to explore the profound implications of predestination, the weight of spiritual warfare, the role of prayer, and the generational impact that comes with being part of a larger divine plan, called V's. Chosen, a divine distinction. To understand the difference between being called and chosen, we must first grasp the profound implications of these terms in the context of faith. Being called is a universal experience that extends to all of humanity. It is a divine invitation to a journey, to embrace a path that may lead to spiritual growth, personal transformation, or even to fulfill a specific purpose. Every person is called to experience God's love, to respond to His guidance, and to strive toward fulfilling His will. But what happens when God calls someone and chooses them for a higher, more specific task? The concept of being chosen speaks to a predestination that goes beyond the mere call. The chosen are set apart from before their birth, destined for a purpose that transcends the ordinary. From the beginning, they are consecrated for a divine mission that is uniquely theirs. Unlike those who are simply called, the chosen are divinely selected, not based on external rituals or personal validation, but because they are part of a bigger, unseen plan. A plan that is set in motion even before their first breath. Think about figures like Jeremiah, who was consecrated before he was born. His entire life, from its very start, was shaped by this divine calling. Similarly, figures like Joseph, Amos, and even Jesus exemplify what it means to be chosen. These individuals didn't just stumble upon their purpose. They were destined to walk paths fraught with challenge and suffering. Yet these very trials were part of their preparation for something greater. Predestination. A divine plan in motion. The notion of predestination goes hand in hand with the concept of being chosen. The idea that certain individuals are predestined for a particular purpose, before they even take their first steps on earth, challenges us to think differently about the nature of free will and divine intent. Is everything we do preordained, or do we truly have the power to choose our own paths? In the case of the chosen ones, it becomes clear that their journey is not contingent upon their own choices or the external world's validation. Unlike the called, who may need confirmation or signs along their path, the chosen walk with the assurance that their lives are part of a grander design. This design is not shaped by circumstances or societal expectations, but by the will of the Creator. For the chosen, their journey is an unfolding of God's plan, a journey that, even in moments of doubt or fear, leads them closer to their ultimate destiny. Jeremiah's life serves as a profound example of predestination. Before he was born, God declared him to be a prophet, consecrated to speak His truth to the nations. Jeremiah's life was not one of arbitrary events or coincidences. Rather, every challenge he faced was an integral part of the fulfillment of his divine calling. Similarly, other figures like David and Moses were chosen not because of their own accomplishments, but because God had set them apart for a specific mission that would impact generations to come, lineage and knowledge. A divine plan beyond conventions. One might expect that the chosen ones would come from a specific lineage or background, that their divine calling would be linked to traditional concepts of authority or spiritual heritage. Yet, as the stories of Amos and other prophets reveal, God's plan is not confined to human conventions or societal expectations. Amos, for example, was not from a prophetic family, yet God called him to be a prophet. This highlights the essential truth that divine calling transcends earthly limitations. The chosen ones are not always those who fit into society's preconceived notions of what a leader or prophet should be. This underscores a key point. God's divine plan is often not constrained by the expectations of the world. The chosen ones, in their humble or unlikely origins, serve as a reminder that God's ways are higher than human understanding. It is not about who you are or where you come from, but about being open to God's calling and being willing to embrace the journey He has set before you. The chosen ones show us that God does not see as man sees, and His plan for our lives is always greater than we can imagine. Adversity. Preparation for a greater purpose. The path of the chosen is rarely an easy one. In fact, adversity often plays a central role in preparing these individuals for their divine purpose. Far from being a punishment, hardship serves as the refining process that strengthens and prepares the chosen ones for their ultimate mission. Joseph's life is a powerful example of this. Being sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. Every trial Joseph endured served to prepare him for his eventual rise to power in Egypt, where he would save countless lives during a time of famine. Similarly, the adversity faced by figures like Moses and Jesus was not meant to break them, but to build them into the leaders they were called to be. Through their trials, they were shaped, tested, and refined, gaining the strength and wisdom needed to fulfill the divine plan. For the chosen ones, adversity is not a sign of divine abandonment, but a necessary part of their journey. A journey that ultimately leads to greater responsibility and greater service to God's people. Spiritual warfare. The battle for destiny with the calling and predestination of the chosen comes a reality that cannot be ignored. Spiritual warfare. Those who are chosen by God often face opposition from forces beyond the physical realm. The enemy, recognizing the potential of the chosen ones, seeks to hinder, distract, and ultimately prevent them from fulfilling their divine purpose. This spiritual battle is not a metaphorical struggle, but a very real confrontation with forces that aim to stop the progress of God's plan. Jesus faced opposition from the very people He came to save, and His betrayal by Judas was a critical part of the greater divine plan. Moses faced resistance from Pharaoh, and throughout his journey, he encountered spiritual and physical challenges that sought to deter him from his mission. Even the great prophets, like Elijah and Jeremiah, faced tremendous opposition, yet it was through their perseverance that God's will was accomplished. The reality of spiritual warfare is one that the chosen must accept as part of their calling. It is not a battle that can be won through sheer willpower alone, but through prayer, faith, and reliance on God's strength. Prayer becomes a vital tool for survival and victory, a means of connecting with the divine to gain strength and insight in the midst of battle. The chosen ones are not left alone in their fight. They are empowered by the very presence of God to overcome every obstacle that stands in their way. The power of prayer. Well, for survival and fulfillment, one of the most essential aspects of the chosen one's journey is the role of prayer. Prayer is not just a ritual or a passive practice, but a powerful tool for survival, spiritual growth, and the manifestation of God's promises. Through prayer, the chosen are able to communicate with God, to seek His guidance, and to find strength in moments of weakness. For the chosen, prayer becomes a lifeline, a means of connecting with the Creator to discern His will and to receive the grace needed to overcome obstacles. It is through prayer that the chosen can find the courage to continue on their journey. Even when the road is difficult or uncertain, prayer sustains the chosen through spiritual warfare, providing them with the tools needed to fight against the forces that seek to prevent them from fulfilling their purpose. Supernatural gifts and authority. A divine endowment, another significant aspect of being chosen, is the supernatural gifts and abilities that come with the calling. The chosen are often endowed with unique spiritual gifts, powers that are not for their personal use, but for the fulfillment of God's plan. These gifts may manifest in various forms: prophecy, healing, wisdom, or the ability to perform miracles. Yet their purpose is always the same: to serve others and to further the work of the kingdom of God. These gifts are not a mark of personal greatness, but a sign of God's authority at work in the world. The chosen ones are instruments through which God's power flows, and through them, creation is influenced, transformed, and aligned with His will. Just as Jesus performed miracles to reveal the nature of the kingdom, so too do the chosen ones wield divine authority to bring about God's purposes on earth. Generational impact. The legacy of the chosen ones, are not just instruments of God's will in their own time, but are often the catalysts for generational change. Their actions, sacrifices, and faithfulness have a ripple effect that extends far beyond their own lives. Chosen carry with them the weight of past generations' choices, and their lives often set the stage for future generations to experience the blessings of God's covenant. For example, the legacy of figures like Abraham, Moses, and David has impacted generations of believers, and their stories continue to inspire and guide. The chosen ones are called not just for their own sake, but for the sake of the world and the generations to come. They are part of a larger divine narrative that extends far beyond their own lives. A purpose beyond self, perhaps one of the most profound aspects of being chosen, is the realization that the divine calling is not for personal gain, but for a greater, higher purpose. The chosen are not called to fulfill their own dreams or desires, but to serve others, to help realize God's plan for the world, and to bring about His kingdom on earth. This requires a profound shift in perspective, from a focus on self to a focus on the divine mission. The anointing given to the chosen ones is not for their personal glory, but for the good of others. They are called to be servants, to lay down their own ambitions in order to fulfill God's will. In doing so, they become vessels through which God's love and power flow into the world, blessing others and fulfilling a purpose greater than themselves. Rejection and isolation. Preparing for a higher purpose, the journey of the chosen often involves periods of rejection and isolation. These moments, while painful, serve as a necessary part of the preparation process. Isolation allows the chosen to grow in their relationship with God, to refine their understanding of His will, and to prepare for the greater purpose that awaits them. Rejection and isolation are not signs of failure or abandonment, but are often the means by which the chosen are prepared for their destiny. Through these trials, they are molded and shaped into the individuals who can carry the weight of their divine calling. These experiences of solitude and rejection are necessary for spiritual growth, helping the chosen ones align more closely with God's will and the purpose He has set for them. Conclusion. The journey of the chosen is not for the faint of heart. It is a path marked by adversity, spiritual warfare, and rejection. But it is also a path filled with purpose, divine power, and the promise of generational impact. The chosen ones are called not for their own benefit, but to serve a higher purpose, to fulfill God's plan for the world. They are the instruments through which His will is made manifest on earth, and through their lives, the world is transformed.